प्रथम धरे जो ध्यान तुम्हारे, इसके पूर्ण कार्य सारे। प्रथम धरे जो ध्यान तुम्हारे, इसके पूर्ण कार्य सारे। लंबोदर गज वदन मनोहर, लंबोदर गज वदन मनोहर। कर त्रिशूल परशुवर धारे, जय गणेश गणनाथ दया निधि सकल विघ्न कर दूर हमारे। जय गणेश गणनाथ। रिद्धि सिद्धि दो चमन दुलावे, मूषक वाहन परम सुखावे। रिद्धि सिद्धि दो चमन दुलावे, मूषक वाहन परम सुखारे। ब्रह्मादिक सुर ध्यावत मन में, ब्रह्मादिक सुर ध्यावत मन में। ऋषि मुनि गण सब दास तुम्हारे। जय गणेश गणनाथ दया निधि सकल विघ्न कर दूर हमारे। जय गणेश गणनाथ दया निधि सकल विघ्न कर दूर हमारे। जय गणेश गणनाथ। दर्शन दो घनश्याम नाथ मोरे, अखिया प्यासी रे। दर्शन दो घनश्याम नाथ मोरे, अखिया प्यासी रे। दर्शन दो घनश्याम। मन मंदिर की ज्योति जगा दो, मन मंदिर की ज्योति जगा दो। घट घट बासी रे, घट घट बासी रे। दर्शन दो घनश्याम नाथ मोरे, अखिया प्यासी रे। दर्शन दो घनश्याम। मंदिर मंदिर मूरत तेरी, फिर भी न देखे सूरत तेरी। मंदिर मंदिर मूरत तेरी, फिर भी न देखे सूरत तेरी। युग बीते ना आई मिलन की, युग बीते ना आई मिलन की। पूर्णमासी रे, पूर्णमासी दया का जब तू खोले, पंचम स्वर में गूंगा बोले। द्वार दया का जब तू खोले, पंचम स्वर में गूंगा बोले। अंधा देखे लंगड़ा चल कर, अंधा देखे लंगड़ा चल कर, पहुँचे काशी रे, पहुँचे काशी रे। दर्शन दो घनश्याम नाथ मोरे, अखिया प्यासी रे। दर्शन दो घनश्याम। पानी पीकर प्यास बुझावो, नैनन को कैसे समझाओ। पानी पीकर प्यास बुझावो, नैनन को कैसे समझाओ। आँख में छोली छोड़ो अब तो, आँख में छोली छोड़ो अब तो, मन की बासी रे, मन की बासी रे। दर्शन दो घनश्याम नाथ, अखिया प्यासी रे। दर्शन दो घनश्याम। So now we will recite the Guru Stotram. You have copies of it. अखंड मंडलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं, तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया, चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वर, गुरुर्साक्षात् परं ब्रह्मा, तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। स्थावरं जंगमं व्याप्तं यत्किंचित् सचराचरं, तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। चिन्मयं व्यापि यत्सर्वं त्रैलोक्यं सचराचरं, तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। सर्वश्रुति शिरोरत्न विराजित पदाम्बुज, वेदान्ताम्बुज सूर्यो यः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। चैतन्य शाश्वत शान्तो व्योमातीतो निरञ्जन, बिन्दुनाद कलातीत ज्ञान शक्ति समारूढ़ तत्वमाला विभूषित, भुक्ति मुक्ति प्रदाता च तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। अनेक जन्म संप्राप्त कर्मबन्धविदाहिने आत्मज्ञानप्रदानेन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। शोषणं भवसिन्धोश्च ज्ञापनं सारसम्पद गुरोः पादोदकं सम्यक् तस्मै श्री। न गुरोरधिकं तत्त्वं न गुरोरधिकं तपः तत्त्वज्ञानात् परं नास्ति तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। मन्नाथ श्री जगन्नाथ मद्गुरु श्री जगद्गुरु मदात्मा सर्वभूतात्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। गुरुरादिरनादिश्च गुरु परमदैवतं गुरोः परतरं नास्ति तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव सर्वं मम देवदेवा। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। Oh, Namaste. Today we begin our study of Bhaja Govindam of Adi Shankara, the great teacher. We do not have a lot of reliable biographical information about Shankara. Certainly we know he was a historical person who was born in Kerala in South India, near Kaladi, and had a very short and productive life. According to some sources, Shankara lived until age 32, but left us wonderful gifts. And his main legacy, his main gift to the Hindu tradition would be found in his extensive writings. He is the first to leave us with detailed commentaries on the Upanishads, especially what we consider to be the 12 principal Upanishads. We also have from him the earliest detailed commentary on the Bhagavad Gita and a very great commentary on a text known as the Brahma Sutras, which is perhaps the most important of all of his writings. In addition to these major bhashyas or commentaries on the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Sutra, Shankara has also written many independent works teaching the Vedanta tradition. And there are several of these we have studied in the past here. Tattva Bodha, which is also attributed to Shankara. And today we come to one of his beautiful poems, Bhaja Govindam. But in addition to his writings, he was also an activist or a reformer, And he's credited with establishing the 4 great centers of teaching in India, the 4 mathas, at Badrinath in the north, at Puri in the east, at Dwarka in the west, and then Sringeri in the south. As you may know, the Sringeri Math is a very, very important, very famous center of Hindu scholarship, teaching, and learning, and founded by Shankara. So he was clearly one of our finest, if not the finest, Hindu teacher in history, and one whose impact and whose legacy continues to live with us. Generally speaking, scholars date him sometime around the 7th century. Perhaps around 720 he may have passed away. We're not quite certain, but that's the approximate time, 8th century or so. Now, the Bhaja Govindam is a text of 31 verses. And it's an interesting text because the tradition has it that Shankara composed the first of the 12 verses, and then and his disciples added to the composition, and so their verses are also included in this text. But there is a very interesting traditional narrative or story about how he came to write this poem. And I wanted to start with this narrative. According to the tradition, he was living in the city of Varanasi at this time, and he usually went out on mornings, perhaps to have a bath in the Ganga, or maybe for collecting his meal. But on one of those trips, those visits, he was returning with his disciples, and Varanasi, perhaps even in those days, is very similar to what it is today. Narrow streets, very narrow lanes, crowded. But while walking, he heard a sound that interested him. Because he was a great scholar himself, and he was a great master of Sanskrit grammar. So he heard someone repeating or reciting one of the rules of Sanskrit grammar from Panini, the famous grammarian of ancient India. He heard the sound of grammatical repetition. He became curious. Who is repeating a grammar rule at this time of the day in Varanasi? So he followed the voice, according to this story. And when he reached the source of the voice, he saw something that was really fascinating to him. A very old man, wrinkled, grey-haired, toothless, probably at the very last year or years of his life, holding this text before him, is training to read the rules, but repeating the text. And so it inspired Shankara to compose this verse, because the first verse of Bhaja Govindam is has become a kind of a chorus for the rest of the composition. But in this verse, the grammar rule, Dukrinj, is mentioned there. So we will begin with the first verse, which, as I said, has become the chorus for the rest of the text. Samprapte sannihite kale, Samprapte sannihite kale, nahi nahi rakshati dukrinj karne नहीं नहीं रक्षति दुःखृञ्च करणे सम्प्राप्ते सन्निहिते काले सम्प्राप्ते सन्निहिते काले नहीं नहीं रक्षति दुःखृञ्च करणे नहीं नहीं रक्षति दुःखृञ्च करणे भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते सम्प्राप्ते सन्निहिते काले सम्प्राप्ते सन्निहिते काले नहीं नहीं रक्षति दुःखृञ्च करणे नहीं नहीं रक्षति दुःखृञ्च करणे. So this is the beginning of Shankara's beautiful poem. Samprapte sannihite kale nahi nahi rakshati dukkrinch karane. Kala means time. But in this case, in this verse, Shankara is using it to refer to death or dying. Because after all, that is a phenomenon of time and change. So, samprapte sannihite kale. Sannihite means when your appointment, when one's appointment with death comes. However one thinks about it, it's a realistic fact that each of us has an appointment at some time in the future with Kala, with time. So he says, Samprapte sannihite kale. When that moment comes, that appointment arrives, samprapte, to come, to arrive. Nahi nahi, repeats it twice. Never, never. Rakshati, to protect, to comfort. Nahi nahi rakshati dukkrinch karane. So the repeating of this grammar rule will not comfort you, will not protect you from fear, will not relieve you from anxiety. So samprapte sannihite kale nahi nahi rakshati dukkrinch karane. So he's speaking to this elderly man that, you are so close to death. When it comes, this grammar rule will not comfort you. It will not protect you. It will not relieve your deep anxiety. Now, let me start with a question. Why would Shankaracharya, the great scholar as he was, the great master of grammar himself, why will he speak to this elderly man in this way? Should he not, one might ask, should he not be full of admiration for an old scholar, at this advanced age, still trying to memorize his grammar and to make sure he recalls the rules of grammar? I think that's not the point of Shankara's opening verse. The Hindu tradition, and one of the Upanishads puts this very beautifully, speaks of two kinds of knowledge, Paravidya and Aparavidya. Para and Apara Vidya. And both are necessary, and both are valuable, and both serve different purposes. So what we speak of as Apara Vidya would include all of our scientific knowledge and all of the knowledge of literature, the humanities, the arts, all of that knowledge that we need for earning good livelihoods in the world, for satisfying our professional needs, very important, very significant, very necessary, not to be condemned. We need that kind of knowledge. That's the knowledge of, the medical sciences, the knowledge of technology, and so on. So that is not being condemned here in this verse. What Shankara is saying is that there is a need for paravidya. There is another knowledge, if we speak of it, perhaps it's a higher knowledge. There is a higher knowledge which alone can help us to free ourselves from the anxiety about dying, the fear of death. In other words, the knowledge of science or technology, the knowledge that we need for success in our professions, important, good, vital, but it doesn't go to addressing the deep fear that we might have as human beings about mrityu, about kala, about death. So he is speaking here, in a very specific sense. So I think we should not take away from this verse that Shankara is somehow condemning the old man's learning, but he's saying to him, but there is another kind of knowledge also. And perhaps at this stage in your life, you should also be thinking about that. Because you're so close to death. Have you thought about that knowledge? And we see this, in many of our texts. I often have spoken about the great scholar Narada in the Chandogya Upanishad. Narada was very famous in the Upanishads for his learning. He had mastered virtually everything that is to be known in his own times. And in Chandogya Upanishad, he goes to his brother, Sanat Kumar, who was a religious teacher, a guru. And he goes to him and he says to his brother, please teach me. So his brother knows that his Narada is very learned. And so immediately he's asking, well, what can I teach you? You know virtually everything. So Sanat Kumar said to him, please tell me what you know. Let me know, everything that you have mastered. So he gives a long list in the Chandogya Upanishad. I have studied mathematics, I have studied the sciences, I have studied grammar, I have studied astronomy. He gives a long list. But at the end of the list he says, but I am in sorrow. In spite of my learning, I am unhappy. Shoka, he says. I'm in shoka, I'm in sorrow. Please teach me. And then alone his brother taught him about the immortal one, about Atman, Atma Vidya, Brahma Vidya. He instructed Narada. So Shankara basically is asking this elderly man to seek another kind of wisdom, to seek another kind of knowledge which alone can free him from death. And he refers to that in the words Bhaja Govindam. So samprapte sannihite kale nahi rakshati dukrinsh kadane. What should you do? Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. So Bhaja, Govinda, we know very well. It's one of the names of Goddess Sri Krishna. It's mentioned twice in the 1,000 names of God in Vishnu Sahasranam. Govinda has many beautiful meanings. One of the meanings of Govinda is Govindate iti. Govinda. Go also means the Vedas, the Shastras. So Govinda is the one who is known through the study of the Shastras. Govindate iti Govinda. The one we can learn about by studying the Veda. Go also refers to the senses. So Govinda is one who is a master of the senses, one who has sense control or self-control. So clearly Govinda stands here for God, for the highest reality, the ultimate reality, the source, the support, the goal of all existence. That from which all things have come, that by which all things are sustained, that to which all things return. This is how the Upanishads speak of Govinda, or ultimate reality. So he's saying bhaj. Bhaj means to praise. Like, from bhaj we have many words like bhajan, the song of praise. Bhaj means to praise. But bhaj means also to seek. To seek to know as a verb, bhaj. So we can also translate it not simply as praise Govinda, but also seek. Seek Govinda, seek Govinda, seek God. Seek God, seek God. Shankara is repeating here to this elderly person. So this is what, as we will see, this is what will free you from the fear of death. That fear which, a very human fear that we all share. Now Shankara is not saying that, through this poem he is speaking to this particular person, but his poem has endured because it speaks to all of us across centuries and centuries of history. This is why it endures, because it communicates something that of value to all human beings. And I think that the point here is that not that we should seek Govinda, or we should turn our minds to this understanding only when we are on the point of death, as this old man is. This is not what we should take away from it, that only, as I approach death, should I think of God, or should I turn my mind to God. As, I know you have studied Bhagavad Gita, as Bhagavad Gita, reminds us that the place that our minds will turn when death comes will be the place where it has turned all through life. There isn't going to be a radical shift in mental attention at the time of death. In the 8th chapter, Antakale cha mam eva. Sri Krishna says, Antakali means at the time of death, but adds the word cha, and also at the time of death. Antakali cha mam eva smaran muktva kalevaram. Means one who turns his or her mind to me at the time of death and at other times. And it's a very interesting sequence there in that 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, because there he says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmaran. Therefore at all times, Tasmat kaleshu sarveshu. At all times and in all places think of me. Then, of course, naturally you will think, your mind will be centered on God as death approaches. So this elderly man clearly is at a very special stage in his life. But the point here is, one would naturally focus on God if we have focused on God prior to the event of death. There's no sudden change in consciousness. There's a continuity in consciousness. What is important to us in life will be important to us in death. How could it be otherwise? What we care about in life, we'll care about when we contemplate death or when death approaches. I think this is the message of the first verse of the Bhaja Govindam. Now, in verse 2 and verse 3, I think Shankara turns to identifying two important what I would speak of as pitfalls, or perhaps even distractions, two of the important potential distractions, two of the ways in which we can become distracted from this God-centeredness, from this focus on Govinda, on the ultimate, on the absolute. And the very important and very incisive verse that Acharya Shankara offers us in verse 2 and 3 of Bhaja Govindam. So the text begins on page 9, and I will recite each line because I think it will be very beautiful if at the end of it we can memorize this poem. So your homework after every class is to memorize the verses we have studied. So the first verse now you have to learn, and then the second verse, because it's such a poetic composition and such insightful that you can repeat any time and contemplate and think about the insight of each verse. So now we go to verse 2.
मूढजहि धनागम तृष्णाम् मूढजहि धनागम तृष्णाम् कुरु सद्बुद्धिं मनसि वितृष्णाम् कुरु सद्बुद्धिं मनसि वितृष्णाम् मूढजहि धनागम तृष्णाम् मूढजहि धनागम तृष्णाम् कुरु सद्बुद्धिं मनसि वितृष्णाम् कुरु सद्बुद्धिं यल्लभसे निज कर्मोत्पातम् यल्लभसे निज कर्मोत्पातम् वित्तं तेन विनोदय चित्तम् वित्तं तेन विनोदय चित्तम् भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते सम्प्राप्ते सन्निहिते काले सम्प्राप्ते सन्निहिते काले नहि नहि रक्षति दुःखृञ्जकरणे नहि नहि रक्षति दुःखृञ्जकरणे.
So I think in the second verse we have a very beautiful summary of the Hindu attitude to wealth. It is not an unrealistic attitude, because sometimes the Hindu tradition is wrongly represented as not caring about human well-being in this world. You know, some describe us or describe the Hindu tradition as being what they say otherworldly. We are not concerned enough about life in this world. We put too much emphasis on the renunciation of this world for some other goal or for some other end. And it's very clear, as you can see in this verse, that this is not true. But we have to look at the verse carefully. Now, he's speaking about wealth. But he says, Mudha jahihi dhanagama trishnam. Dhana means wealth. So dhana means wealth, and agama, to accumulate wealth is called dhana agama. But look at the third word, trishnam. He doesn't say that the desire for wealth is wrong. He doesn't say that there is no need for wealth, but he says dhana agama trishna, the greed. Trishna means greed or thirst. A thirst for wealth, the greed for wealth. He doesn't condemn need, but it's a reflection here on greed. So that word trishna, that even the Buddha also spoke about in the second noble truth. Trishna, he uses that word. So Shankara uses it here also. Dhana agama trishna. So what is the problem with... There is no problem with dhana. There is no problem with the accumulation of wealth, agama. The problem is trishna. Dhana agama trishna. What is the problem with trishna? It is meant for our own well-being. And basically, the deep insight of the Hindu tradition, which has been confirmed. Today there is a lot of empirical studies on human happiness and the relationship between wealth and happiness, independently verified by social science studies. And what these studies have shown is that yes, if there is poverty and people are poor and have basic needs unmet, they are unhappy. So that it is important that basic human needs be satisfied decently. But after these have been satisfied decently and well enough, how happy a person is or is not does not depend on how much you have. After your needs have been met well, and of course people have different needs, you can't generalize. What your needs are will depend on your size of your family and how much you provide for them. So there's no, needs are not the same for everyone. But generally speaking, once material needs have been met, let us say decently, satisfactorily, then whether you are happy or not will not depend on how much you have. So this verse confirms that insight. That there are real human needs that must be satisfied. But when we use wealth, when dhana becomes a means or an instrument for self-value, for adding value to ourselves, then it becomes trishna. It becomes greed, because we can never become more valuable human beings because of what we own or because of what we possess. Then there is no end to the race. There is no finish line to the race, where wealth will make us anxious. Wealth will make us fearful. Because, and it's very easy to understand. If I seek dhana because I want to fulfill my responsibilities to my family, I want to ensure that I have a good place to live, I want to ensure, as we do today, we have good health care, and I can make sure that I can leave something for my children, I can give them a good start in life, I can fulfill my parental obligations. It is quite possible that I can get to a point where I say, I have fulfilled my responsibilities. There is a point where I could say, the satisfaction of having fulfilled those responsibilities. I have a decent place to live. I don't have to worry about health care. I don't have to worry about my children or my family in need. I have satisfied those. But if I am thinking that wealth is going to make me a more valuable person, what happens is that I always have to feel that I am worth more than others. So now I enter a different place where I am always now comparing myself to the other, because I am using my wealth to decide how valuable I am as a person. And that value is in relation to what others have or others do not have. And therefore there's no time when you can say, I am okay. Because every time, the one with whom you're comparing yourself gets a little more than you get. You think that your self-value now has decreased. Your self-value has decreased. So Trishna, that Shankara says here, Trishna can never be satisfied. Needs, the Hindu insight has always been this, that human needs can be satisfied. There is a place that you can say, I have filled this need, I have satisfied this need. But greed can never be satisfied. So greed leads to a state of always wanting. And a human being who is always wanting can never be a happy human being, can never be a contented human being. So Krishna here speaks of dhana agama trishna. The greed is the problem. And therefore, of course, when there is this, when we are consumed by greed, when the mind is completely consumed by greed, there is no time to think about anything else. There is no time to contemplate Govinda. It distracts. There is no focus on Govinda because you are preoccupied in thinking only about dhana agama, the accumulation of wealth. The Bhagavad Gita, gives a very good portrait. You may remember in the latter part of the 16th chapter, it gives a good portrait of a human being who is caught in the grip of greed. And Krishna even enters into the mindset of this person, and where he has him saying, this has been gained by me today, tomorrow I will gain this, I have destroyed this person, tomorrow I will destroy this one. It sets up such competitive relationships among human beings. It's a very insightful portrait of a human being, the mind of the human being consumed by Trishna and the lack of peace. So if we want to achieve peace, this is the insight. Not that wealth is bad. The Hindu tradition has never. After all, Diwali is coming up and we worship God in the form of Lakshmi Mata for wealth and prosperity. We don't come from an anti-materialistic tradition. Artha is one of the fundamental goals for good living. It's very practical. Artha is important. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, when the teacher is given his commencement to his graduating students, he says to them, do not be lazy about accumulating wealth and looking after your families. You need to provide for yourselves. Well, among all the things that he says to them, be vigilant about ensuring that you accumulate the wealth that you need for good living. But the tradition also points out this problem. This problem that is here. There is the Katha Upanishad that some of you might know of, which is describes the encounter between Nachiketas and the Yama. We're speaking about Kala, Nachiketa and Yama. It's a really interesting way in which this Upanishad opens. In Katha Upanishad, Vishwa, the father of Nachiketa, is performing a great yajna. And in this yajna, he's supposed to give away everything that he has. He's come to that point in his life where he's distributing his wealth, so that he can seek God, the sort of vanaprastha stage of life. So he's distributing. And his young son, Nachiketa, is there in this assembly where the yajna is being performed. And he notices that his father is not following the rules of the yajna as he should. So he sees that his father is giving away his cows, but he's only giving away the cows that don't give any milk, that can't produce any young one. So he is giving away, but he is still miserly and not as generous as the religious ceremony requires. So the little boy, he's learned. So he realizes that this is not right. My father is not doing the yajna. He's not honoring the spirit of the yajna. So he gets up. This is a very embarrassing moment in the text. He gets up, just where everyone is assembled. And he says, in order to draw his father's attention to the fact that I don't think you're doing this in the right way, he says, Father, who will you give me to? I am yours. Give me to someone also. Give me away. And his father doesn't pay any attention to him, but he wouldn't sit down. He says it 3 times. Father, who will you give me to? And his father loses his temper in the text and says, I give you to death. So then in Katha Upanishad, Nachiketa goes to Yama's place, Yamaloka. And he has to wait, because Yama is very busy. Always busy. So he was not at home. It's very rare to find him. Very rare to find him home. So in Katha Upanishad, Yama is not there. So he waits for 3 days and 3 nights without eating or drinking anything. He waits for Yama. Then Yama comes back. One of those rare times he's at home. And he sees this young boy, waiting patiently for him. So he's very touched by this young boy's presence and by his patience in waiting for him. So before they talk very much, he tells him, please ask me. I want to reward you because you've shown such, as a young man, you've shown such bravery to come here and to wait on me. Because if you went to the place of death and you had a chance to run back, you'll probably all want to run back. But he stayed. So he says, you said 3 days and 3 nights. I want to give you something for this. What do you want? Ask 3 things. One for each day. So he says, okay. He persuades Nachiketa to ask. And Nachiketa says, the first thing I want, is very, very intelligent boy. He says, when I go back. So he secures the fact that he'll go back. He says, when you allow me to return to my father, I want him to receive me without being angry at me. Could you relieve my father of his anger when I go back? So 2 things. So he ensures that he's going back. And secondly, it's interesting, he doesn't want his dad to be angry with him. So Yama says, yes, I can make that happen. Then for the second, he says, what is your second request? Then he asks him to teach him a particular ritual, how to perform a particular yajna. So he teaches him that. And the third question he says, which is the most difficult one, he says, where I come from on earth, people have always been debating and discussing what happens to a person after he or she dies. Does one live or does not? Is it complete end of all existence? What happens after death? Please teach me this. He says, if anybody can teach, you can. If anybody knows what happens after someone dies, it is Yama who will know. So you are the best teacher. I can't find anyone better to teach me about that. You teach me. So Yama tries to discourage him from asking this question. Why do you want to ask? Why do you want me to teach this about you? You are so young. What do you want from me? I can give you a very long life. You want to live long? I have the power to give that to you. And then Nachiketa said, yes, I know you have the power to make me live long, but you can't make me live forever, can you? Even the longest life will have an end. And then I will still have this question. He says, okay, what do you want? I can give you all kinds of pleasures. You want music? I can give you most beautiful girls. I can give you those kinds of pleasures you can never imagine. Wealth. And then there is this sentence in Katha Upanishad. Na vittena tarpaniyo manushya. Nachiketa says, na vittena tarpaniyo manushya. He says, I appreciate all of these things, but somehow I know that wealth alone will never satisfy us. Na vittena tarpaniya manushya. That the human being will never be satisfied with wealth alone. There will always be the need for something more. And that something more is the desire for meaning. I want to know. And only after Yama is convinced that this boy is serious, then he teaches him, and Katha Upanishad really begins. But that is a very important sentence. Na vittena tarpaniyo manushya. That human beings will not find contentment in wealth alone. The dhana agama trishna, the thirst for wealth does not lead to satisfaction. So mudha jahihi dhanagama trishnam. So Shankara says to this man and to all of us, please understand the limits of wealth, and in that understanding free yourself. Jahihi. Liberate yourself from greed. Not from wealth, but from the greed for wealth. Mudha jahihi dhanagama trishnam. Kuru sad buddhim manasi vitrishnam. Now, in that mind, manasi, vitrishnam, in that mind which is free now from greed, manasi vitrishnam, kuru sad buddhim, that mind you can now turn to learning about sat. So in other words, as long as the mind is consumed with greed and the anxieties of greed, it doesn't have the stillness, the quietness that allows learning about Govinda, learning about Sat. So he says, Kuru Sat Buddhim Manasi Vitrishnam. In that mind which is now free from greed, fill that mind. Fill that mind with thoughts of Sat. Kuru Sat Buddhim Manasi Vitrishnam. What is also very important here, if we studied Tattva Bodh of Shankara before. Some of you were in that class. You will remember we started with a discussion of what Shankara calls Sadhana Chatushtaya, the fourfold means. Viveka, Vairagya, Shama, and Mumukshutvam. Where he says, before you study, these are the qualities of mind and heart to be cultivated. So, Kuru Sat Buddhim Manasi Vitrishna. This is the beginning now of filling the mind with thoughts of Sat. But that requires a certain disposition of mind. And the mind has to be Vitrishna. The mind has to be quiet. The mind has to be still. So, that's Shama, stillness of mind. But Shama comes because of understanding. Now that you understand the limits of Dhana or Dhana Agama, that's Viveka. Understanding the limits of wealth is Viveka, it's wisdom. And that leads to a certain Vairagya, which is a certain kind of detachment. Not from wealth, but from the greed for wealth. Then the mind becomes receptive. The mind is available. The mind is not distracted. It can be a contemplative mind. Manasi Vitrishnam. So Sat is the same as Govinda. Sat is the ultimate. Sat is Bhagwan. Sat is that which does not change. Na sato vidyate bhava. as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, for Sat, that which always is. That which is not finite, that which is not mortal is called Sat. But to help us understand more that he is not speaking against wealth, he comes back at the end of this verse and says, Yallabhase nija karmotpatam vittam tena vinodaya chittam. To show that it's not an impractical teaching. The great teacher says, Yallabhase, that which you have accumulated, that which you have gained, that vittam, that wealth which you have accumulated, which you have gained, Yallabhase nija karma. Nija karma means by your own honest efforts. The wealth that you have accumulated through your own nija karma, by your own hard work, your own honest labor, not that which you have accumulated unlawfully, that which is consistent with dharma, that wealth that has been gathered by ethical means, nija karma vittam, the ethical wealth, the wealth that you have accumulated by your own hard, honest, ethical, dharmic labor, enjoy. Vinodaya chittam. It's legitimate wealth, your wealth. Enjoy that. Yallabhase nija karamotpatam vittam tena vinodaya chittam. Vinodaya means to enjoy, make use of, use well. It is not wrong to do that, but make sure you understand also that you need something more than this wealth, for fulfilled living. You need a deeper wisdom, a deeper spirituality, which alone liberates from greed. So he's not, clearly Shankara is not speaking here about an unproductive individual. He's speaking to us, he's speaking about someone who is working. Yallabhase nija karmotpatam, someone who is in the world, who is working, and who has a need to work. But even that person, Shankara is saying, can also live the spiritual life. The spiritual life is not only for the one who has turned away from the world, but in the midst of all of our work, of our professions, we can also live very deeply religious, we can live very deeply spiritual lives. It's what he says here echoes very beautifully the opening verse of the Isha Upanishad. Isha has a very similar verse. Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. Isha means God. So Isha Upanishad opens up with a very beautiful mantra. Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. That we should see the whole universe clothed with God, wrapped in God. Vasyam. Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. Yat Kinchit Jagatyam Jagat. Whatever exists, see it wrapped in God. Tena Tyaktena Bhunjita Madgrida Kasya Swidhanam. And enjoy what you have earned. Do not be envious of what others have. Yeah. Tena Tyaktena Bhunjita Madgrida Kasya Swidhanam. Do not be envious of the wealth of others. You enjoy what you have earned with your own, through your own efforts, honest efforts. So Shankara comes and maybe he's inspired by that particular verse, and he says, Yallabhase nija karamotpatam vittam tena vinodaya chittam bhaja govindam govindam bhaja mudhamate. So we will stop here with these verses today, and our next class on Bhaja Govindam will be on November 8th. I'm remembering correctly, Prasanna? November 8th.
Just two comments.
Yes.
The first stanza is talking about limitations of knowledge, secular knowledge.
Yes.
Second stanza is talking about limitations of wealth. very important.
Yes.
The Trishna, when it comes to the second stanza, doesn't seem to apply universally for thirst for knowledge. It exists, but it's not as deep
Yes.
as thirst for Arjuna.
Yes. Yes. It's far more rare. And Bhagavad Gita says that Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit yatati siddhaya. That the thirst for knowledge is far more difficult to find. And that's quite true. It's a good observation. There were 2 points you
Oh,
okay. Thanks. Excellent. So I will conclude and we'll just have a short kirtan. Please join with me. Ram, 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 Ram Naam Tarakam. 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 Ram Krishna Vasudeva Bhakti Mukti Dayakam. Ram Krishna Vasudeva Bhakti Mukti Dayakam. Ram, 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 Ram Naam Tarakam. Ram, 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 Ram Naam Tarakam. Ram Krishna Vasudeva Bhakti Mukti Dayakam. Ram Krishna Vasudeva Bhakti Mukti Dayakam. Janaki Manoharam Sarvalokanayakam. Janaki Manoharam Sarvalokanayakam. Shankaradi Sevyamanaki Divyanam Kirtanam. Shankaradi Sevyaman Divyanam Kirtanam. Ram, 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 Ram Naam Tarakam. Ram, 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 Ram Naam Tarakam. Kayena vacha manasendriyairva buddhyatmana va prakrite svabhavat. Karomi yadyat sakalam parasmai narayanayeti samarpayami.